literal last search in my last email
Wow.
was I'm not gonna lie though, I'll be transparent.
Sometimes it's not so much just about making, but it's about understanding
About
them.
keeping. How do you see me? Like, how would you describe me? Just so I can get an understanding of me. I have my first in-person event. It's a vision
Yes.
boarding event
Yeah.
that I'm doing.
On the
I think the
18th,
day that
yeah.
this dropped.
Welcome to the Healing Manifest podcast. My name is Elijah. Unfortunately, my co-host couldn't be with us here today, but we're going to keep going, and I have a great guest for you guys here today. She's been on the podcast before, one of my favorite guests to interview. She's a DJ as well. She's done amazing parties. She's done a lot of great work. She's done a lot of great stuff we're going to be able to get into. Please welcome my guest here for us today, DJ Shannyn Hill.
Hi, thank you for having me back. It's a great time.
Come on, I had to have you back. I feel like you just have very great vibes, very calming, and I feel like a lot of people with the last episode that we did, they really enjoyed it. And
Yeah, that one was fun.
people asked for you, people wanted you back. And I noticed that since we did that episode, we're able to talk so much about what you've done and with the retro parties, but you've just been everywhere since then. I felt like after that interview, I was just like, I wish I knew that was happening. You probably didn't even know yourself some of these things are happening. Things are just going so fast. First and foremost, you got to go for the WNBA All-Star Weekend.
Yes.
Walk me through what that was like for yourself.
That was a really fun experience. It was my first time ever going to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And my first time ever actually going to an All-Star Weekend, a WNBA All-Star Weekend, and seeing it in person. I seen that it was happening. I really wanted to go, and I was just gonna go myself. But then someone I knew, it's another organization, shout out Danielle from Box Out Brand, hit me up and said, "Hey, I'm doing an event surrounding that weekend. Just come through and DJ." And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do it. That gives me even more of a reason to be down there. So I got to really experience what the culture was like in Phoenix, in the States, because we haven't had too much exposure in Canada. So it was just really cool being submerged in that environment and just seeing the players in real life, just seeing how excited everyone was for it to happen, and just how excited everyone was just for the W itself.
And that's one thing that I've been seeing for you is, it's funny that you say that, because you say you got to experience so much for the first time, and I found myself, and I feel like a lot of people who get to watch your stories and watch your posts that you put up are experiencing so much of these for the first time. You even got to be at, I think it was the first WNBA game that was in Canada.
Yeah, that was 2023, yeah.
Yeah, and that was one thing there. And then to see from that happening, and then the All-Star Weekend, there's so much things that even myself, I get to learn and experience through you. So for yourself, being able to be a part of these things, and seeing how the WNBA itself is just in such a growth period right now. With yourself getting in touch with the person, were they also from Canada, or was it someone from America that reached out to you?
Yeah, they're from Canada. They're currently based in New York, but they're very tied in with the basketball scene, the basketball industry. That's what the company is all about. So it just kind of worked hand in hand.
For it, just not just for that part of you, the growth, but as well for yourself to see where, how everything has just come about in the last 6 to 8 months. It's things that a DJ could only, I could say, even myself, I could only imagine these things coming about. Now, how's it for you when you're seeing these things come one thing after another? Because you can never expect sometimes that these things are coming. So for yourself, where you're getting this offer, this is coming, how is it for you when you're experiencing it at the moment?
I feel like it's a lot of times it's super surreal, but I don't really take it in until after the fact, because in the moment and then prior to it happening, I'm doing the groundwork. I'm doing sending all the emails, connecting with everyone, just doing all the work, that when I get there, it's oh my God, did this really just happen from efforts that I put in? And now we're here. And then after the fact, I really let it sink in and I grasp it all. But it's just crazy to see the opportunities I have been able to. Let me say that again. It's just been crazy to see the opportunities I've been able to create for myself, just from the output that I put out.
Yeah. It's
But yeah, it feels surreal, and I'm kind of stepping into a space now where I'm accepting the fact that I deserve these things that are coming my way. Yeah.
that is a whole thing of its own, of accepting that, okay, I do deserve this, and like having like, I know for even myself, like sometimes even myself putting those words out there, it throws you off, like it can throw anyone off, and like you, like, people recognize you. You're at a place where people recognize you when they see you, and when you see that happen, people are like, yeah, you're great. Like, how is it for you when you're taking in these compliments while you're thinking these things at the same time?
I'm horrible at compliments. I'm getting better at it, at receiving them. Let me just think about. Do you mind saying your question again?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're intaking like a lot of praise in the same moment that you look at yourself and you think, wow, like, am I deserving of these things?
Oh yeah, that imposter syndrome. It's kicked me in the ass multiple times, like multiple times. But it's just, one of my mentors told me this. Shout out for Corners. It's like, if you're in the space, you're meant to be there. If you're there, you're there. Because everything we experience in life, if we're in that moment, that we're supposed to be there type thing, right? Because everything is divine timing. So whenever I do have that feeling of imposter syndrome coming up, I just remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be here.
And like, I think it comes to as well as you assume. I think what it comes to, I'm trying to say, is you don't realize sometimes, I think, what other people don't know what you do. Because I think when you, like you were saying, you're sending all these emails out, and people don't realize sometimes that's what it takes to sometimes do this, right?
I don't remember. Did I share this the last episode because I also did 2024. They had a WNBA game in Edmonton.
Yes.
Did I share that the last one?
I believe you did, yeah.
Oh, I did. I don't know if I should reshare it or not.
No.
No?
This is going to be, for some people, their first time seeing
Oh, okay,
so.
bet. So, yeah, like, I seen that they were coming to Canada again, and I did the game previously. I had a phenomenal time. I was like, I'd love to do this again, because like, it's dope. Literally being able to DJ and watch basketball live.
Yeah.
And it's women's basketball. It's like, yeah, I'm in that. So basically, I hit up my past contacts for the previous year, the one that was in Toronto. But they said, we don't know who's doing it. And if we find out, we'll let you know. And I'm like,
Okay.
well, I want to do it, so I need to take matters into my own hands. So I got on LinkedIn. That's probably the most active I've been on LinkedIn. I reposted content from last year, and then I went out and just scoured LinkedIn and like searched like everything, like the venue operations, like who was running it, anyone part of the WNBA organizations. I just like literally scoured it, and I actually didn't even know that you can run out of free LinkedIn searches, and I ran out of LinkedIn searches. There's a limit before you have to pay, but my literal last search and my last email was the exact contact that I needed to make the connection to make it happen.
Wow.
So it was just like, it was mind blowing, because I'm like, oh, is this even possible? Is this gonna happen? Because I sent emails, no one responded. I'm like, I'm out of searches. I am not paying $100 for LinkedIn, but if I have to, I will. But it was like literally, like, it's crazy. Like, I look back and I'm like, I remember when that happened, I looked back in my search history. I'm like, I saw the name. I'm like, no way. It was literally my last search.
And like, honestly, it's funny with LinkedIn. It wasn't until I spoke with a social media manager that I realized how much LinkedIn can actually play a factor in like finding, like networking and finding people that can help you out. Like, I honestly, even myself to this day, after being told, like, I forget how important LinkedIn is. And I think, again, it's one of those things, I feel like people, they see where you're at and it's just like, how, what do I, and that's a big one. When you have a portfolio, you have things that you can show. People are on there. And sometimes if someone sees that you message them on LinkedIn, that's probably one of the best places to get like a random like reach out.
Yeah. Yeah, LinkedIn, like it works. Like as long as you just use it correctly for what it is, that's exactly what it's for. Even honestly, other social platforms like Instagram, whatever. Like if you're using it correctly, then
Oh, yeah.
you will
Yeah.
find those people that you need to connect with.
Yeah. And like, I wonder for yourself as well, like, you've managed to, because I've seen you grow over the last, like, I'd say about 2.5 years now, and how much you've paved a lane for yourself. And it's like, you have the retro, like DJ, like the retro nights that you do. You
Yeah,
have
the rewind party.
like the WNBA stuff, and it all fits so perfectly. Of like, I don't feel like there's anything that I see you do where you're like, oh, I need it's a paycheck, I gotta do it. Everything I feel like aligns so much of you.
I'm not gonna lie though, I'll be transparent. I have been guilty of that a few times, but now I'm just like, if it doesn't align with me, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like it's not worth it. Because I put myself in experiences that I didn't want to do, and I went literally just for the money, and I regretted it. The money, great, but it's like the experience wasn't it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
You were just in a headspace where you're like, I
need the
can't
money.
do this.
Like I need the money, right? But now it's like, I just gotta put myself first. As much as money is important, it's like second to oxygen here, but just putting myself first.
It's like, as much as all this stuff, it is a business, there is the mental factor that you gotta
Exactly.
keep in mind of. And I think it genuinely is a balance with anything that you do, of being able to be like, okay, like, I have to be in the business, I have to put my mind out there, because it's true where if we allow ourselves to be too much in our own mental and say, no, 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 too much,
Yeah.
we can lock ourselves away from opportunities. Like, for yourself, how's that balancing act been for you?
Like mental and business.
Yeah.
I'm in the stage now where I'm learning to properly balance it, because a lot of times when I'm in on something, I go all in, and that's all. That's it. But now it's like, I'm learning how important it is to really take that step back, to recharge, work on myself, make sure I'm mentally okay. Because the nature of my work, I'm always around a lot of people. So I'm like engaging and exchanging a lot of energy on a constant basis. So it's like really important to hone in on myself and really just keep myself grounded. And I'm actively doing that now, and I'm noticing the benefits of it. So I'm gonna, keep working to keep it more consistent and just make it be almost second nature, where it's like, okay, I need to make sure I take this break, focus on myself, do what I gotta do, and then dive back in.
And that's one thing I noticed with yourself, with what we're able to talk about a bit as well, with you going to Phoenix and going around in Canada. Like, you travel, like, you put the effort in, you do a lot, like, it's one of those things that they say, like, sometimes you want something, it's that extra effort that you put in. You put a lot of that extra effort in, and
Yeah.
because you do that, sometimes you have to allow yourself to be like, okay, I know I'm doing all these things. Let me now be able to say, okay, let me breathe a bit here. Let me give myself that space. And I guess what it comes to, I want to say, is for yourself, with recognizing that for yourself and seeing what you do each day, to be like, okay, I am now going to be doing this today, that today, to get to this point over here. How, like, I'm trying to phrase this the right way right now, but how much is it for yourself where you're able to say, okay, today I'm going to focus this amount of hours here, I'm going to put that amount of hours, because there's also that daily calendar that you got to be aware of, where it's hard to like be like, okay, I put in the hours here today, let me take a rest. So like, how is that, like, figuring out your daily calendar like?
For me, like, how my brain works is, I feel like I have to be doing not multiple things at the same time, but if I know that I have multiple things to do, I'll kind of break it up and then bounce through each task throughout the day. And then by the end of the day, I'm done everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just can't sit down and finish one thing and then go to the next thing. Like, I have to bounce around. So that's kind of how I go through my day sometimes.
And you do it so pretty well, because like, I seen that you had the Roots Collective that you have right now.
Yes, my plant shop. Yeah,
plant shop.
It's making a return.
And
That's actually a crazy story.
I actually remember you talking about your plans a bit. Like after we were finished the podcast, we were just talking together about your plans. I was like, okay, that's cool, that's cool. And then after I started seeing more of what you're doing with it, and I was like, this is something right here. And like, how like for like even for yourself getting a lot more back into it recently, like how did that come about? You're like, okay, we're gonna get more into this right now. Was there a phase where you were trying to like figure out how you were gonna get back into it?
Yeah, I got back into it honestly because that's where my heart has been since I started it. And the reason why I stopped, I don't know if I meant, did I say it last time?
No.
No, I didn't. I guess I could share, but long story short, I moved into an apartment that the landlord told me that there was no pests, but it was just infested with mice, which is not good for plants. It's not good for me. So through that period, I was just kind of moving around, and I didn't have a stable place to really stock and store the plants to continue the business. So now I'm finally in that position. It's like that's where my heart has been. I've been wanting to do this. So what was the question? Did I answer it? I don't remember.
Yeah, like I guess like yeah, you're pretty much answering of like getting back into the Roots Collective and
yeah, it's just been again like where my heart's been. Except now I'm taking it in a different direction where I'm actually really involving the community. I have my first in-person event. It's a vision boarding event that I'm doing.
Literally on the 18th.
I think the day that this drops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, on the 18th of January. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's the first time I've ever done something like this. But I know it's necessary for the community, and the community is looking for stuff like that. So outside of plants, like, I want to be able to share the wellness factor of life and how plants can be very beneficial for our mental health and just overall wellness. And just like plant therapy is a thing. So
like honestly, from your page, I'm learning so much things about it. And like I hear you saying words, I'm gonna butcher the words right now. Like it was like
biophilia,
yes, and I'm like, dang, I didn't even know we had that.
See, I don't even know if I'm saying that right either.
But like I'm learning these little things from like your page, and like it's funny because I remember like it's one of those things like being around plants. I love like whenever I think about where I'd want to live or like be, I'm always like, I love the city, but like I need greenery, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just innate in us. Like we're all connected, right?
Yeah.
So if we're gonna connect more with life as opposed to bricks, right? So of course, when you see grass and nature, you're gonna be more drawn to it. But yeah, it's just innate. It's natural.
That was probably the best quote I've heard in terms of why we need plants. That we're gonna need plants with life more than bricks. That was like that was perfect. And like again, it's one of those things where you have that and you have the vision boarding, and when I see you do that, I don't even feel like it's off brand from you. And like what I see, like even like when I meet you and I'm like, first and foremost, I see you and I'm just like, what do I gotta do to get my skin that clear right there? Like
That's good though, because I've actually been trying to figure out like really how to integrate that side of me into my socials. Because right now I'm just known as a DJ, but like
there's more to you that
more
makes
than
you
that,
you.
and I wanted to share that side more. So I'm glad that you're kind of seeing that it's not like a shock. It's not really off brand because it's just really me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And something is just really you were like in the moment you're just thinking to yourself, this is what I wanted to do. Let me just put this out there. And I remember from the last time I was speaking with you, with even getting into DJing, it's just been a lot of for you just being like, I enjoy this. Let me just, and you even kind of said it earlier, like you put your all into whatever it is you do, and you just put that out there. And I guess for people who, they're still trying to figure out what they want to do, what they're looking to do, and find that joy, what they're going to do in their lives, like, there's a lot of aspects of that help for them, I find, where it's just figuring out, like, if you like something, go for it, put your all into it, and it's
try it out.
Something's gonna happen. Yeah.
Try it out. Yeah, that's literally what I do. Like YouTube University is a big thing for me. So I really just, if I'm interested in something, I dive into it.
Yeah.
And see like if I like it. If I don't like it, I'll move on. But if I like it, I'll stick through. And if I stick through a lot of times, it ends up working out in my favor.
That's what I like with how things are in modern day, where you can do that. You can learn like everything through YouTube, and I think people are starting to realize we're all very diverse on what our joys are.
Yeah.
Like you said, like yes, you're a DJ, but you don't just have to be a DJ. Like that's what makes you very unique. Like
Yeah, that's like a mindset that I had to get myself out of, because I feel like even just growing up, where it's like we're so trained to think that like we have to do one thing for the rest of our lives, because we're always told that in school. It's like, oh, what do you want to be? And it's just like one thing.
yeah,
You give another option. It's like, oh, but you can just do one thing. Like I've literally been told that from teachers. I remember that, but it's like we're literally just like we're naturally multifaceted.
Yeah.
We all have so many different interests. So it's like it just doesn't make sense to just suffocate ourselves into one thing.
Yeah.
Like if you love it, I get it.
yeah,
And if that's like for you, it's for you. But like if you're someone that wants to do other things, just literally just do it. Like
allow
we
yourself
don't
to
have to be trapped
multifaceted.
into just one thing.
Yeah.
Because that's not natural. Really.
And I find with what you're saying, a big thing I've been having to learn recently in life is like, we've kind of, exactly with what you were saying, with how we're taught young of like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, it feels like this pressure of us having to have our whole life figured out by like 20.
Like third grade.
Yeah.
Literally.
Not even at 20. Literally,
Literally.
you're right. I like the third grade. And it's all the things I've had to realize where you're not going to really have your life figured out, and you have to kind of love that. Like there's so much love, and when you accept that you're not going to have things figured out, you start to enjoy the journey of life, and that's where things figure themselves out from enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say too, with what you're doing and how you have so much things that you enjoy. I remember one thing we were able to talk about off camera last time that I think is a really cool thing is you've been able to like get into like plants, learning about wellness, these things here, but also with how you've learned about crypto and how
Oh yeah, trading. Yeah.
you there was things you taught me with that as well. And I think it's an interesting thing for people with wondering self, like trying to figure out crypto. Like how for yourself was it where you were like, hold up, there's this thing that's coming, let me understand it and figure it out?
I really started diving into it last year, like 2024. But it's kind of been around, and it's like I'm looking back, I'm like, I wish I actually like paid attention back in 2015. But I was a teenager doing
None of
whatever.
us understand.
I didn't bother looking into it, but when I did, I realized I'm like, oh, that's actually the direction that the world is headed.
Yeah.
So if it's still so early on, then by the time it's fully adapted, like we'll all be set. Like if we educate ourselves now, if I educate myself now, then it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
What happens? And I feel like it's such an infancy stage, but it's so like understanding and like trying to pick up on what coins are like up, what coins are down, and like a lot of the conversation seems so similar to like stocks, but it's like in a way of money that is off, like almost off grid, almost like the best way I could like describe it almost.
It's just the barrier for entry is very low, and the amount of returns that you could get from crypto, and it could literally change your life. I haven't had that experience yet, but I know I don't really dabble into meme coins anymore because it's not really sustainable or like for real. But yeah, the returns are insane. Like I've known people who their life has changed and now they're property developers. Like it's been crazy. Like just off of crypto. But yeah, I've noticed that's just where the world is going. So I'm just educating myself on that so that I'm prepared for pretty much anything. And even if it doesn't go that way, it doesn't hurt to just learn, right?
Yeah. And then, you know what? I think that's still kind of the mind space for people who very early on were getting into Bitcoin and were just like, because like in that infancy stage, it's like none of us understood. Like I feel like a lot of us, especially for how young we were when it was coming up, I didn't understand what a Bitcoin was. I didn't know what was cryptocurrency. Like the understanding and knowledge of it has really only grown the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. And that intrigue of learning that I would say that we have is probably what the people who first got into it were getting into it. It's like, let me just see what this thing is.
Yeah.
And what happens, right? I think what people forget with what you've done a lot with your career is understand that sometimes you just got to take the safe risk. Sometimes it sounds like a contradiction, but there's like safe risk where you're like, you know what, let me just enjoy myself doing this. Let me just enjoy doing that. And what happens, happens.
Taking a safe risk, just buying regular stocks like that, that still works.
Yeah.
You know, like it's still safe. But I think honestly, just educating myself on how the financial industry works, how the financial markets works, and just increasing my financial literacy has really just altered my perspective on life completely. And I'm so grateful that I actually really dove in at the age that I'm at, because I'm still very young, right? I look at my parents and it's like they didn't really do that work, right? And I can see it's reflected in their life and their circumstances. But now that I'm like kind of stepping into that, I'm grateful that I did.
And like, I think too, what it boils down to with what you're saying is so like great is the fact of just learning the financial literacy, because I feel like a lot of times people see like, people have certain jobs like, oh, like you're making a lot of money doing this job over here. Like, how do I make? But sometimes it's not so much just about making, but it's about understanding them. Keeping, right?
Yeah, bro. I have a story with that too. I don't remember. Did I share last time too?
I think it was off. I think I know what you're talking about.
It's probably off camera. That's why I'm getting so confused, because we had such a good convo off camera. But drop shipping is another interest of mine that I've been very successful in the past. And I've made a lot of money that literally no one in my family has ever seen, but now it's gone because I didn't know how to manage it. And it's not like I splurged it all, but I was just reinvesting too much back into and not paying attention to budgeting. Like I just wasn't managing it properly in the business. So I ended up losing it all. And a lot of my supply was coming from overseas. And it was my first time experiencing a Q1 after a Q4 in a business with products coming from overseas. So that was a big hurdle that I had to get over, where I saw the money and I'm like, this is great, but I've never seen this before. I don't know how to manage it. Where do I put it? I just thought that the smartest thing would be to put it back in the business. Like, yeah, that is smart, but it's like, you know, making sure I'm allocating it properly, making sure that I'm not overspending back into it and not getting too much of a return if it's not that, like, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but basically, like, just, I wasn't managing my money properly. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, damn, like, if I had the knowledge that I do now and made that, I would have been set. So I'm just grateful, again, like I said, to get that knowledge, because I know once that happens again, like, I'll be good.
And I think it's one of those things where it's like it takes that experience.
Yeah.
And then after you go through the experience, and then when you start learning, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now, right? Because it's like, I think what people forget, like, it's so true with like the allocation of money, and it's something that we're not taught about really. And it's like, how do I understand, like, okay, I have this, say, $1,500 that came in. And all we know is we have $1,500 that comes in. We don't understand, like, okay, this is $1,500, but let me put this here, that, there.
Yeah.
So I always can be like, okay, let me make sure I'm all right. And like doing that and living in Toronto, which is not a cheap city to live in, like for yourself, like, you know, there's like, okay, let me do what I do. Let me showcase myself. Like, how is it for yourself to manage doing that? Because you do it very well, honestly. You manage showcasing your lifestyle, but you don't have like this braggadocious personality to you. Like, you have to kind of maintain. It's very much, you're down to earth, right?
Yeah, it's not who I am.
Yeah.
Like I said, even when the money was really flowing in, like, nothing about me changed. I was just like, great, like, I can help my parents now. That was really my mindset. But it's just, I can't explain it. It's just me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like no matter what, I'm not going to change. Like, I've had a lot of accolades, but it's like, it's just me, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like one of my purposes here is to, like, achieve those things, yes, but like also inspire people to live their life to their fullest potential and take risks and to step out of their comfort zone so that they can achieve their wildest dreams, right? So I feel like that's keeps me grounded too. But yeah, I that's just me.
Yeah. And I think what's beautiful with that is like you're able to be just you. And I think and then this comes kind of with a story of what I've heard a lot of, and I want to say like you're just you, and you're able to be in like the Junos, where you're around all of these artists and everything, right? And I know a lot of people when like they're in rooms where like they're with other successful people, they get scared of if they can be themselves.
Yeah.
Especially like I know, especially a lot of young Black youth, for example, there's a lot of fear of like, oh, like, am I going to be accepted for being me? But at the same time, you're someone who can show like you're able to be you, be in these rooms, and like, how was that for yourself? Like when you're going into those rooms, like, did you have those fears as well, or like, was that just?
Yeah, because a lot of times I'm like the only Black person in the room, and it's crazy because I show up with my locks, and it's like I'm professional, of course. You have to have some sort of professionality.
Yeah.
And the way you speak and carry yourself, that's like number one. But again, like if you're in those spaces, like you belong in those spaces. It's just kind of maybe shifting your mind from that and realize like, hey, like how can I learn from this? How can I gain from this? But also how can I benefit whoever else is in the room? Because that's really business. Like how much can you give? That's how you get stuff in return.
And it's a lot of it's that knowledge that you obtain, and it's understanding you develop this knowledge.
I didn't always think like this. Like, I did a lot of work and introspective work over the last like 7 years. So.
Hey, but you know, this is where I was like,
role.
you're a great person to have on because you're someone who I see you like not just from like conversations that we have or had, and I also see it as well. Like when I see people's posts and I see people on Instagram, like. I see the post, but I also see them, and I'm like, okay, this is who they are. And I'm like, I could tell you're someone who can inspire and really show people who are trying to figure that aspect of themselves out. And that's what I think is so great about you and like what you've done. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
honestly.
thank you. I'm still trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
So it's like we're all figuring it out together.
Yeah. And that's a part of life. We're always going to be just learning things, right?
Yeah.
And that's where everyone kind of needs that kind of mentor. And like, shout out to Four Corners for being a mentor for yourself, right? And it's understanding, you know, you've like almost like to use Pokemon terms, kind of. It's like you're not level 1 no more. Like you're at least you gotta give yourself that knowledge. You leveled up a bit.
What was it, Dragon Ball Z reference, Super Saiyan? Like, I'm not. It's like, almost there.
Yeah. You're almost at that Super Saiyan ultimate instinct. What's it called? Instinct, whatever it's called.
Is that what it is?
Whatever.
I don't know.
In the comments, please remind me.
Yeah, let us know. We'll get there.
the last one there.
I just feel like I'm just constantly evolving. I'm just a student of life, and I feel like I tell myself constantly like I don't know everything.
Yeah.
So therefore, I can know everything, right? So I can really step out, teach myself to learn.
Yeah.
And expand the way I think, expand the way I perceive things and everything. So again, it's like, that's literally what I tell myself. Like, I don't know everything that way. That means I have the opportunity to know everything.
It's funny. I have a similar saying, funny enough. It's like where I say to myself, the smart thing is to realize that you don't know everything. The smartest person knows that they don't know everything, essentially. And when you give yourself that openness, you give yourself the openness to learn more. And you take the pressure off of yourself of having to know everything. And for yourself to like do a lot of the introspective work, which I think is very interesting because a lot of being at peace with self, being able to learn these things, being able to have certain value, it comes from a lot of introspective work, which you focus on a lot with the plans, with the Roots collective that you have as well. Walk a little bit through like your intro, I guess, to your wellness journey, like yourself, like being able to be like, okay, like I'm understanding these aspects here now with it.
So this was 2016. I'll preface, I guess, slight trigger warning for anyone watching, but 2016, I had unfortunately put myself in hospital. When I came out, I was like, I'm tired of feeling this way. Like for real, like there has to be something better. There has to be. So I just started, of course, with the help of therapy, just like reading and just looking into things like how can I really just get myself feeling better mentally? I'm like, this is not fun. I hate this. And I really just started journaling a lot more. journaling how I felt about certain things. And again, through the help of therapy, I was able to identify like certain triggers and make sure I was getting myself out of situations that I just didn't enjoy. Even just going to, like if I didn't feel like, let's say, going on a walk that particular day, but then I just didn't. But there's certain things that I would do that I felt like I had to, and it's like realizing that I just took back that control basically.
Yeah.
And just started doing more things for me. And when I started doing that, that's when it shifted. But before that, I had to figure out what is for me, who am I? And that took a lot of journaling, reading, meditation, therapy, and just all of that. Even just asking people around me, like, how do you see me? Like, how would you describe me? Just so I can get an understanding of me. And that's what kind of propelled my spiritual, I don't want to say the word spiritual, but it's just like my journey, basically, my journey of elevation, and just getting out of that dark mental space. And because when you're in it, like I didn't ever think that there's gonna be a light. I was like, what the heck, like literally. But I got out, and I'm like, wow, like the light is actually there, and it actually exists. People say there's a light in the tunnel. I'm like, no. But no, it's like for real.
It's like, am I even in a tunnel right now?
Yeah, like, literally, like I'm above the waters now.
Yeah.
You know, like I lived most of my life with just like this
Yeah.
in the water, you know? It's like my nose is like,
yeah.
but now it's like, it's the mind, really.
Yeah.
It's like, I noticed I was just trapped in my mind.
Yeah.
I wasn't really living. I was just locked in here, really.
And like, it's funny because you say yourself like, you don't know how to say it. It feels like it's a spiritual. But it's funny, like the biggest thing that I grow on is like, I call it the 4 pillars of life, being your physical, mental, financial, and spiritual. And yes, like the mental and the spiritual, they are so intertwined. You don't understand. I feel like there's a level of it you don't understand until it's like you start to actually understand it of a space of like, okay, I'm getting so much of understanding of my mental, I can understand myself outside of my body now. And it's like, I love how you said like you were so in your mind, because going through so much even myself, it's that realization I had very similar of like, I'm so in my own head. Like I'm so in such a dark space. I don't think of it like that until I'm out of it and I'm like, whoa, okay. I put myself so deep in my mind, I couldn't even think of myself being outside of my mind. You know what I mean?
Like, it's like our mind literally creates our reality.
Yeah.
Like what's in here is how we perceive the world. Even if it's like it could be perceived by someone else as the most positive thing, and you're looking at it, you're like, oh, I fucking hate this.
Yeah.
Like, shit. Like, what is this? But it's literally all here.
Yeah.
And I just really had to train myself to choose from not here, because these beliefs, habits, thoughts, and patterns were not serving me. So I just had to pick and choose basically from, what's the word phrase? The realm of possibility. Because everything is possible, right? But it's like, whatever you focus on is what is going to perpetuate in your life. And I really understood that and just forced myself to like choose happiness, choose peace, focus on the things in my life that make me feel happy, and abundant, and just gratitude. Like I would literally journal that I'm grateful for just little things. Like I have eyebrows, I can breathe, I have breath in my lungs, I can coherently speak to you right now. I can feel my hands do this. I can hear my hands clap. Like it's just those things that help get my mind out of that trap, and just realize like I have already what I need to be happy, because I have breath in my lungs, really.
And there's so much things you're saying. I'm like, there's so much similarities of things that ideologies I have. And I'm gonna start with the first thing that you were saying earlier, with like how the simple thing of positive conversation, positive talks, and how it can feel so weird initially. And it's one of those things, like for myself, I still honestly, I work on, and it's like being able to have those little conversations of like, I'm doing great, I'm great, like this is an amazing thing. Like sometimes it's like nah, this is corny, but like, why is that corny? But if I say, oh, I'm rude, I'm bad, and all these things, like, that's fine. Like, that's cool. Say
right?
that.
It's like, why is that? Why is that what we tell ourselves is okay to say?
Yeah.
But saying the good things, it's like, I don't know.
It's like, that's weird. Yeah. It's, and like the second thing you were saying remind me of like what I was, like, it's a phrase I started to live by, and it helped me out of my own dark times as well, where I was feeling in the worst, I was in the worst position of life, and I was like, there's no way I can get out of this. And I started saying, you know what? If I am hating life so much, if I still have breath, I still have fight. Some of what you're saying with there still being the light. And I'm like, you know what? If I still have breath, I still have fight. So you know what? Why don't I just say screw it and just do?
Yeah.
And let me just let life decide that life is actually over rather than myself.
And how was that like shift?
It honestly, again, what we're saying with the spiritual aspect, it was that aspect of God where I was just like, I always thought like God gave me this, so I can't take it from me, like myself. So just, I guess a bit of my grandma kind of putting me on those kind of teachings, put me in that position. I was just like, as much as things suck right now, as much as I feel like everything's just burdened, I was always like, I can't. And then also I just looked at my family of like, I know the pain that they're gonna feel from me doing this, and I'm like, I can't do that to them. So it's understanding that, okay, let me not put them through that. So let's just see. And then when you start seeing and you start saying, let me give myself that fight. All right, let's see. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like
moving.
it's crazy because it's like when we have life, there's still so much opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I've faced homelessness multiple times, but I was able to get back up because, well, I got something for free, literally. You can pick up stuff at the side of the road and flip it. If you have a phone, post it on Facebook Marketplace, just flip it. Or get stuff. I used to flip iPhones. So my parents lived in Brantford, and I would buy them for cheaper in Brantford, and my dad worked in Mississauga. So I would travel from Brantford to Mississauga with him and flip the phone in Toronto because people are paying more there.
Yeah.
So I would make like $50, $75 a phone sometimes.
Girl.
So that's kind of how I got my way up. Like I was housed with my parents at that time, but I didn't have money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do?
I've kind of been in that spot. And for me, like being in a similar spot, and I was in Markham, so I was like, that was the one thing I was lucky about, because when I was in Markham, there's a lot of people who had money, and there was things that they just stopped seeing value in. And I was just like, okay, you're gonna throw that out. Okay, I could see the value in this here still, so let me just have this here.
There's a lot of free stuff, even on Facebook Marketplace. Like this is like,
yes,
this is real facts. Like I literally used to go Facebook Marketplace, get free stuff, like on the train, on the bus, coming back with like bags, phones and stuff, and just like flipping it.
And it's like you kind of have to just take that ego out of it and just be like, you know what, like,
You just
why am I so prideful and not accepting that these opportunities are right there in front of me sometimes? And that's where I think it comes of like accepting, hey, anytime I think there's a parallel too of seeing those little like opportunities, and when you look at yourself and literally the last message that you sent to get to the WNBA All-Star Weekend was from a last message, like these little opportunities that we sometimes say to ourselves.
Crazy.
Let me just not have pride and just not take away this opportunity from myself and just do.
Yeah, just try it. It might end up working out in your favor.
Yeah.
Really.
And like, I love how this is why I love talking with you, because I'm like, there's so much that's there, and this is probably what people wanted you back on for an episode. And I want to say thank you so much for coming back here again today. I appreciate you so much. Please, again, I'm going to have her socials at the bottom here. If you enjoy this conversation, don't just comment and remind me of which Super Saiyan I was forgetting. Or it was in that conversation.
Goku.
Find her, like this video, comment below, share this with someone who just needs this, whether it's on the financial, the spiritual aspect, someone who needs this conversation, or let this be a, hey, I care about you kind of stand. So definitely do that. Thank you again for coming. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.